Uh, okay, today our guest speaker is Frank Petise, transportation director of transportation for City. Stu, take it away.
Okay, good morning. Welcome, Frank. Thanks for stopping by. Frank is the traffic engineer with the City of Stamford Transportation and Traffic and Parking Bureau. He's responsible for the oversight of all the transportation projects on the east side of the City of Stamford, as well as the city-wide parking operations and enforcement. He reviews, excuse me, he reviews developments, manages transportation projects, and oversees the east side traffic operation. He and his parking team set citywide parking restrictions, oversee the residential parking permit program, smart booting program, and ensures that all parking restrictions are enforced. Frank's also responsible for the management oversight of the 3 city-owned parking garages and the commuter rail parking lots. Prior to his time with the City of Stamford, he was employed by neighboring municipalities, public works departments for 14 years prior to that. Frank is a graduate of UConn with a BS in the civil engineering. He spent the last 3.5 years as a key member of the Transportation, Parking, and the Traffic and Parking Bureau in his role as a traffic engineer. Currently, he's the acting bureau chief for the department, and he's looking to build on the success that have been made in recent years. So Frank, welcome, and the stage is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. So as Stu mentioned there, I'm currently the acting bureau chief. I attended one of your meetings, trying to think if it was last summer or the summer before, with Jim Travers, who was the bureau chief at the time.
Yes.
Jim has moved on to Norwalk, and as well as with Garrett, who was the other traffic engineer here. So currently my role, I'm the acting bureau chief. So in addition to the things Stu mentioned in my bio as a traffic engineer, instead of me just overseeing the east side of the city, I'm now over all of the city, as well as our 209 traffic signals we have. So I have a little presentation here I put together. So let me try to share my screen here. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. So we are the Transportation, Traffic, and Parking Bureau. And this is a quick overview. Stu kind of covered all this. I'm the acting bureau chief. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of Connecticut. I actually started my career with a private engineering firm for the first 4 years. And then I was in the town of Greenwich after that for 14 years prior to coming to Stamford. I live in Fairfield, Connecticut with my wife and 3 children. So who we are, the Transportation Bureau. So we have 3 main operational divisions, and that's traffic maintenance, parking operations, and the traffic signals division. And then our professional staff on the capital project side is transportation engineering, where we work closely with the Land Use Bureau for planning. And we do capital projects. And I have a slide, I'll go over that shortly here. So what do? We ensure the safe movement of people and goods in the city of Stamford. We look at things like our traffic signals operation and timings. So, what that means is that the signals are synced up as you drive down a corridor. So for instance, on High Ridge Road, we implemented new timings about 2 years ago now, and we saw some of the travel times reduce as much up to, I believe 36% was the highest. And what that does is when people are frustrated driving, they're more likely to make impatient decisions and make mistakes, which leads to crashes. So the smooth flow of traffic is helps us avoid additional crashes. We have parking operations, as I mentioned. So we have about 600 or 700 on-street meters, as well as our 3 parking garages and 2 commuter lots. So not only is that responsible for the enforcement of those, but also the meter collections. And we have all the traffic signs and pavement markings in the city, as well as the special events. So the special events, you know, a lot of them largely are downtown, but we do get others as well. You know, you have the parade and those sort of events. So our department provides all of the barricades for all those events. We do roadway design and engineering. We manage our construction projects. We also review all the developments in the city, as well as transportation policy and planning, and a lot more. So transportation engineering. So this is the roadway design, construction management, and project review portion of our department. So, you know, as Stu had mentioned, you know, we had a lot of successes in the last 3 years here. You know, we're a safety focused department, and I like to say we're safety focused and data driven. So, you know, we try to focus on pedestrians and bicycles first, and that's because they're the most vulnerable users of the roadway, specifically pedestrians. So we like to use data to support our decisions, and you know, it's safety first. So if there's something that needs to get changed that'll improve safety and, you know, help us avoid one more fatal or injury related accident, then, you know, we're going to look to do that. We also strive for cost-effective and unique solutions to transportation designs in the city, and we work closely with the members of the community and the board of reps to try and incorporate those designs. Here's a couple of examples. You know, the one on the left is a RRFB that we put in front of Dolan Middle School, and this is what I like to call one of those like quick hit projects. So you can kind of see there the pedestrian ramps were new that we installed there, as well as the RRFBs. And this is, you know, a highly used crosswalk right in front of a school. What the RRFBs are is it stands for rectangular rapid flashing beacon. So each one of these, in addition to just having a crosswalk sign, I don't know if you can see my arrow or not, but there's a push button there, and that's activated by the pedestrian. So when they push it, there's little lights here that flash in a rapid pattern. They're yellow lights, and, you know, it just brings awareness to the driver that a pedestrian is about to cross. And then they're solar operated as well, which is the solar panel up top. Then on the right, we recently completed the Summer Street Pedestrian Safety Improvement Project. You know, we also coordinated with our highways department, and, you know, they paved all of Summer Street as well. And then one that's not shown there too is we just completed West Avenue and West Main Street intersection, which is one of the worst bottlenecks we had in the city. It's been ongoing for a couple of years. And we widened the road on both West Ave and West Main to include a left turn lane. We're putting all new, you know, inlaid, not the stamped brick crosswalks in there to enhance pedestrian safety there as well. Now here's an example of one of our low cost, quick hit, but meaningful projects. So this is up on Newfield Avenue near, I believe it's St. Cecilia's Church. There was kind of a sidewalk there before, but it kind of just blended in with the roadway. So we're able to go in and we dropped a new curb in and put a sidewalk in here. And even when I went up there to, you know, originally look at this, you know, so a citizen had complained about it. And while I was just standing out there for the 15, 20 minutes I was there looking at it, I saw probably 5 or 6 people walk down the road. And what's even better is when you put it in and then you go back and, you know, see people walking there today. It's, you know, goes to show you that what you're doing matters, and that's what we strive for. So here's some of our bicycle safety projects as well. This bike rack is at the Glenbrook train station. So unfortunately, we kind of put this in right before COVID hit, so it hasn't gotten much use yet. You know, the Metro North ridership is down about 80% of what it was before. We're starting to see traffic pick up again, so I suspect people will take the train again. But unfortunately, you know, the other side effect of that was Metro North really decreased their train trips. So Like I mentioned earlier, I live in Fairfield myself. I used to take the train to Stamford every day. And I haven't taken the train since March 2020. In the beginning, it was largely because the traffic wasn't there. Now my issue more is when I look at the train schedule, it just doesn't align with, getting to the office and getting home. So I've still been driving, even though the traffic's really picked up. But this is one of those things, we got a lot of complaints from the community. I couldn't find the before picture, but there's a tree on the other side of the train station here, and we have a picture with about 20 bicycles chained to it. So we put this in here to give people a place to park bicycles. We also added a new bike lane on Bedford Street last year. And, we call this a protected bike lane because you can see there's a little buffer between the vehicle and the actual bicycle as well, or the bike lane itself. There's a small gap further up Bedford that's missing before Bull's Head, and we have a project to hopefully widen that a little and get that done this year. Then down on the lower right is a bike lane we added underneath the Atlantic Street Bridge. We worked with DOT to get this done because that was their project. And we're extending that all the way north to Broad Street. We received the LOTSIP grant which is a state grant for Atlantic and Main Street right in front of Veterans Park. And we also had some additional city funds we're able to add to that project. So we'll be removing the median on the section of Atlantic Street from Main to Broad Street, which will allow us to continue the bike lane up to downtown. Our parking operations division. So we have 3 city-owned parking garages with over 2,000 parking spaces. So there's one at Bell Street, which is shown here in the picture. We've been doing some painting there. I'm trying to get the next floor painted this year as well to upgrade it and make it a little more inviting. This is, I believe, the oldest one we have. And then we have one at Bedford Street, which is probably the one people know most behind all the restaurants there and where the Bedford Annex lot is. And then we have one at Summer Street as well, which connects to the 66 Summer and Vila parking garages. That's what our most highly used one. In addition to those 3, actually, we also enforce the mall, which is another 3,600 spaces, I believe. So we don't technically own the mall. The city owns the land it's on, but we do the parking enforcement in there as well. In addition to that, we have on-street parking. We have over 600 metered on-street parking spaces. As you can see in these pictures here, the one up top is a multi-space meter. So we put those down on Washington Boulevard, the lower end. I think we have 3 there now. And then the other picture here is our single space meters, which we have all over the city as well. So we're responsible for not only enforcing these, but we also have 3 meter technicians who go around every day and collect the revenue from these machines, as well as repair them and keep the maintenance up. We also have 48 residential parking permit zones that we're responsible to enforce. Currently, we have 8 enforcement officers. We have 2 open positions. We had 3 open. We just filled one about a month ago. So we still have 2 more open positions I'm trying to get filled. So every officer has his own vehicle, and we have a second level of parking enforcement officer, which is a traffic violations officer 2. And those 3 officers have license plate readers on their cars. So those we use in the garages as well as the beaches and parking lots. So the officer drives around and the LPR picks up whether or not the plate is paid. So, it allows us to do our job more efficiently as opposed to, walking the whole lot on foot. Prior to COVID, we issued about $2.5 million worth of parking tickets. I can tell you our parking fund's about $7 million. We're down about, 30% during COVID. It's starting to creep back up. We did suspend parking, paid parking for about, I want to say it was March 17th to July 6th or 7th last year. So we did lose some revenue there as well, as we weren't enforcing the meters. And then another thing I don't have on here is you mentioned in my bio, we have a smart booting system now. So prior to starting that system, when someone was a scofflaw, which was, having 3 or more delinquent parking tickets, we used to tow their vehicles, and we would only do it when the government center was open to allow people to go pay to get their vehicle out. And it was also, it's cumbersome for someone who's a scofflaw, because, you come out and your car is gone, and then you have to pay all the towing fees as well. So what the smart booting system is, we just put the boot on. It's much quicker for our officers. They don't have to wait for a tow truck. They just slap the boot on and go. And then when you come back to your car, there's a notice on your windshield, and you can call up and you can pay right over the phone. And, if you pay right over the phone, they'll give you the code to take the boot off, and you return it to the government center. And with that, we saw I believe our scofflaw revenue was about $100,000 prior to doing that. And in the first year, we collected almost $500,000. And that's all outstanding ticket revenue. So it's not, it's not additional regulations we placed on anyone. That's just basically collecting money people owe the city for parking tickets. The next division we have here is our traffic signals team. So there's a 3-member team who's responsible for 211 city-owned signals. So what's included in that is that what you see here is a hawk signal in this picture here. And this one's on Washington Boulevard. We have 4 of those now throughout the city. So with that, it's similar to the RFB. You'll see there's a little push button here. So that's activated by the pedestrian. When they get there, they press it, the lights flash, and when they go solid red, the vehicles have to stop, and then you can cross safely. So it's like a step above the RFB as far as the safety measure goes. This froze up on me. When can I get to the next slide? Oh. Sorry about that. So of our 3-member team, they're on call 24/7. They rotate which one of them is on call. So, a signal goes down in the middle of the night, and, we have to get called out to fix it. In addition to those signals, as I mentioned, we maintain the RFBs and the hawk signals. Any, we have other signals. I can think of one on Oak Lawn where there's a curve sign and it's got a flashing light on it. That's another thing. Anything with a flashing light or signal on it, they have to maintain. We get, hundreds of requests through Fix at Stamford every year for traffic calming and, speed requests. And the way we look at those, we first look and see what data we have on any given street when it's given to us. And if we don't, then it goes into our queue for data collection. So we have 2 radar recorders now that collect traffic data. They give us the volume of the vehicles, the size of the vehicles, the speed of the vehicles. So this division is responsible for putting those out as well and getting all that data for us. And they continually work to upgrade our signal infrastructure as well. So some of the projects we have, we get funding through developers. When we review projects for through zoning, if the project's big enough and they're, impacting our system that much, then, we'll get funding for a new traffic signal or sometimes just upgrades to it. The one at Atlantic and Tresser was paid for by the developer. But there's other ones where, the development's not that big, but we have things like video detection we ask for, and AGPS buttons, which those are the ADA push buttons that have the beeping noise for someone who's, visually impaired. We are currently in the process of awarding CMAC Phase G traffic signal replacement for 6 city-owned signals. And what that CMAC is a congestion mitigation air quality grant through the federal government. It's administered by the state DOT, and traffic signal projects fall under congestion mitigation and air quality, because if you have idling vehicles because the traffic's not flowing, then that's an air quality issue. So as I mentioned earlier, new signal technology allows us to sync signals together and optimize traffic flow. Some of the other signals we replaced, I mentioned Atlantic and Tresser. They also did Atlantic and Federal. And we'll soon be doing the one right out front of the government center at Washington and Tresser, which was funded by the 2 projects across the street there. Our traffic maintenance division, in short, people call them signs and lines because they do all the signs and all the pavement markings on the road. So They're also on call 24/7. It's, it depends on the sign that gets hit. If someone hits a, no parking sign, we're not running out there in the middle of the night to fix it. But, at a highly trafficked, all-way stop sign, if someone hits a stop sign, that's a major safety issue if all of a sudden one of the legs doesn't have a stop sign up anymore. So we have over 30,000 signs throughout the city, and hundreds of miles of pavement markings. So they're responsible for updating all of those and keeping them in good repair. They also maintain 8 city parking lots. They coordinate all the special events, as I mentioned earlier, like Alive at 5. So what that involves is they mostly do all of the, all the roadway barricades you see come out for Alive at 5 or the parade. That's all through our department. Our guys coordinate all that. We, they do a walkthrough of it. They figure out how many barricades we need. And, not only do we drop them off, but we set them up and take them down. This next bullet point here, respond to emergencies such as water main breaks, down trees, etc. That's really to close up the roads and set up detours with all of our barricades and signage. Additionally, we also are part of the snowplow team. So when we have a snow event, they fall back under the road maintenance crew and they, do road maintenance as well. This is my last slide here. Thank you very much. Just a couple other things I wanted to mention too is, so, with the pandemic, some positive things have come out of that. We have our Park Mobile system, which is contactless parking. You use your phone app. We had it before, but we've seen that usage go from, 25% of our transactions up to over 50 to 60% now, which is great. And, as I mentioned earlier, I'm just my goal here is to build on our past successes. I think if you looked 5 years ago, Stamford had a high fatality rate for pedestrians, is, part of the team with Jim. In 2018, 19, and 20, we only had 1 pedestrian fatality in each of those years, 1 each year. And, we're looking to build on that success. 1 fatality is really too much as far as I'm concerned. I'd like to see it get to 0. It's a big task, but that's what we're trying to accomplish here. So with that, if you have any questions.
Okay, Frank, that was for me very, very interesting. It's good to see all these projects and how the city is really making progress in that area. If you guys have questions, raise your hand. Either use the participant screen for that or the reaction screen for that. And 1 question at a time. If you have a second question, raise your hand again, and we'll take those questions. But I'll lead off with 1 question, Frank. Sometimes traveling around the city, I know in my own neighborhood, I noticed traffic signals that are really appear way off, okay, just improperly timed. For example, on Japan Avenue, I know about 20 seconds of through traffic and about 1.5 minutes of wait. Anyway, but the question I want to ask is not specifically about that, but how does a resident of Stamford report something they think is wrong with either a traffic signal or some other issue? How do they get a hold of you guys to look at the issue?
So, I mean, the best way to do it really is to report it through Fix It Stamford. I'm trying to look up the web link here, and I could post it in the chat maybe. And, that's really best for, not only us, but also, the resident reporting it, because what happens is it'll ask you a series of questions and it'll cue it to the right department. And then once you put in the requests, sorry, I'm just trying to get it here.
It's stanfordct.gov.
Yes, if you go to stanfordct.gov, it's right at the top of the page. You'll see Fix It Stamford. And let me post this in here. So the VOC is the system that it goes through. So it doesn't say Fix It Stamford, but you could also go to the city's website and right up top, you'll see Fix It Stamford. Here, I'll just share my screen again here. So right up top here, you see Fix It Stamford. So if you click on that, it'll bring you to this form. There's multiple categories. And then you see traffic signs and signals right there.
Yep.
And the reason I say this is the best way to go through it too is because not only will it get assigned to the right person, but it's not perfect. It doesn't always, but usually we can reassign it within there. And then you, as the person requesting it, you'll get an email with a confirmation number once you request it, and you can go back in there and follow up. You can see what the status of it is, and you can also, if you haven't heard anything in a while, you can send another message and just say, hey, I submitted this. What's the status of it?
Great, thank you very much.
Stu, I don't know if you can see my hand up there because I don't have that ability, but I do have a question, if I may.
Oh, the president wants to go to the head of the line. Go ahead, Joe.
Hi, Joe. How are you?
How you doing? Quick question. We're all a bunch of old timers, and a lot of us, or our wives, have handicap permits. What I know there are, on some streets, you might have 1 or 2 handicap spots for parking, and what other require regulations or rules for if you park in a metered spot with a handicap sticker? Is that sort of look the other way, or is that what's the policy on handicap parking other than handicap spots?
So technically, the way the state law is written is that you can't put a time restriction on a handicap placard space. Anyone with a handicap placard, you can't time restrict the parking. So because of that, if you go say park at a meter on street, that's like a 2-hour meter, we typically just don't enforce it if you have a valid handicap placard, because it's just difficult for us. We could technically we could make you pay for the meter. There's nothing in the state law that says, you can't charge for a handicap space. But the problem is with our on-street meters like that, it'll only let you pay for 2 hours if it's a 2-hour zone, and we can't restrict your parking there. So it's almost impossible for us to enforce whether you paid any of it or not. So ultimately, if you have a handicap placard in an on-street meter space, we won't ticket you. In our parking garages, the 3 parking garages, they are open 24/7. So that's the only place we ticket handicap vehicles. So if you're in one of the garages, we don't restrict the time you're there, but we give you the opportunity to pay for that space. So that's the only place we enforce them.
Thank you.
Thanks. Lloyd, contract? Lloyd? You're muted, Lloyd.
Is there any way that the traffic department could improve the luminosity of the street extension, sidewalk extensions into the driving lanes, so to speak? I'll use an example of what I'm saying, is that the Dairy Queen at the corner of North and Summer, that redesign put in an extension. Now, in normal sunlight, no problem. However, when bad weather comes, rain, mist, nighttime, fog, that extension can't really be seen. And you got to know that it's there so you avoid it, especially if you're going to make the left turn onto North Street. That's one example. Is there anything that the city could do to improve the luminosity of these obstructions that are potential hazards for the driver?
So I can look into that. The streetlights are handled by engineering, but we do try to add them at our newer intersections. And if it's something like a bump out, I'll have to look at that. I'll look at that specific corner and take a look there. Because another thing we try to do is, we'll try to put an edge line in on the roads, the white line to the right, when we have things like that. So that, the driver, if you're in the lane, you're not gonna, it'll keep you away from it. But that's one of the things we do, but I will take a look at that.
Thank you.
Jerry Kranz.
Yeah, hi, Frank. Question, you had mentioned the Summer Street repaving.
Yes.
I lost 2 tires on the Summer Street repaving, along with a number of other people I know who also got tires blown out. Is there any way to get reimbursed? We did send information into Fix at Stamford, and have received absolutely no reply and no information.
Okay, so I'm aware that there was a lot of, issues with the paving there. So we coordinated with the highways division, but it was really their project to pave. Our project just covered the intersections, but that's a whole other story. So I'll look into that. So you can also file a claim through the town clerk's office, though. That's where all claims go through. So if you have like a receipt for damage, or I assumed you got it fixed now. So it would be a receipt after the fact, and you provide a write-up on when it happened and what happened. You can file it through the town clerk's office, and then what they do is they record it, and then they send it to the legal department, and they look at it there. That's how the claims process works here.
So
I'll look at why you didn't get a response and fix at Stamford, though, because I know several people put in requests for that.
Jerry, what actually happened?
You hit the raised,
Yeah, the manholes and the structures.
manholes. My wife hit two of them, both on the left side. Bam, bam. That was it.
Bam, bam. Thank you, ma'am. Okay.
You get you. Thank you.
Thanks. Bill Munko.
Hi, Steve. Bill Munko here. I live in Springdale. Problem for a couple of years now, and I wonder if you had any information on it. At the corner of Weed Hill and Newfield Avenue, that light in the morning is atrocious because the cars back up, and I would say more than half of the cars want to make a right-hand turn to go towards the parkway, and they can't even get up to it because there's a tree there and whatnot. Anyway, has that ever been brought up for it to be looked at? Because it backs up so much in the morning that you end up sometimes being there for 2 light changes before you can get out.
That's Weed Hill in Newfield.
Yes.
I'm not aware of any complaints there.
Okay, so there's a right hand, there's a church on the corner, there's a big tree, and there's no right hand lane. And
Okay.
what happens is the cars, if more than half want to go up towards the golf course, and you can just get stuck there. You can't do it. So it's a problem in the morning
I understand.
for years now.
So I wanted to say this earlier too, Stu, when you mentioned the signal seemed off, the timing was off at the one in Japan. So
yeah.
Another issue we have with some of our traffic signals is, we rely on loop detection. And if you pull up to an intersection, you'll see like the lines cut in the pavement. And there's a wire that runs through there and detects the vehicles there. So a few things happen over time. The pavement expands and contracts with the weather, and then eventually that wire breaks. And another thing that happens often, more often than I'd like, is people do road work and utilities come in and they trench right through it and they cut it. And of course they don't call us up and tell us. So we don't find out until traffic backs up. So we're trying to do video detection. So sometimes you'll see at intersections, they have like a bell up on the signal, and that's a 360-degree camera. And what that does, it looks down on all the legs of the intersection, and we can set the detection zone in the camera. So it's above, it's more reliable. And we just received a grant to replace to do an additional 70 of those throughout the city. So, some of these issues, I'll look at this Weed Hill one as well. I know there's not a grid smart camera there now, but that may help. It may just be that we don't have the queuing capacity there with the, just with the amount of traffic it sees. But what those grid smart cameras allow us to do too, is they also collect traffic data on top of it. So in addition to being the detection for the intersection, when we have issues like this, we were saying, hey, look at Weed Hill and Newfield. If there's a grid smart camera there, I can pull it up and I can see how many vehicles are going through the intersection and which ways they're going. And that allows us to adjust the signal timing as well to make it flow better. So, but I believe this one's on the list. I'll take a look at it though.
Thanks. Oh, by the way, Frank, the one I was talking about is the light at the entrance to Cummings Park on Chapin.
Okay.
That's the one I'm talking about. Larry Holtzman.
Thanks for your presentation. Quick question about the Cove. Is there supposed to be a man there at the gate to collect a daily fee if you don't have a beach pass?
At Cove Island?
Yeah.
Yes, there is.
Okay. 2 weeks ago, I was walking with the SMAS, and I had tried to get a beach pass the day before. And I couldn't upload the two documents that you needed to do.
Okay.
And we parked there. There was no man there. And I got a ticket for $80. I filed an appeal. By the way, I did buy a beach pass the next day because I was able to upload. And under the appeal was denied. I gave him a full, and there was no man there. I was willing to pay the daily rate, but the appeal was denied both online and by letter. I don't know if it's wrote or somebody actually read what I wrote, but I was a little bit annoyed that there was no man there, and I was willing to pay, I guess it was $20 instead of $80, whatever the
Right.
daily rate was. I paid the fine, but I was a little bit annoyed, and I'd like to get recompensation for that because there was no man there.
Was this before Memorial Day?
It was when we walked in the cove yes.
So
It was before Memorial Day.
It was a weekday.
It was it was a Wednesday.
So what happens is we start enforcing May 1st, but we don't man the actual booths until Memorial Day. On weekdays, they're only there on the weekends. So that's likely what happened there. Did you already paid the fine?
Yes, I did.
Because once your appeal is denied, you do have a right to appeal it again one more time. But if it's paid, I don't know that they can do the reimbursement. I'm going to put my email in here.
I'll write you an email with mine, and I'll give you the
Yes.
citation number.
So I don't do the, for reasons of checks and balances, although we issue all the citations, our department doesn't do the appeals and adjudications. It's done through cashiering and permitting.
Yep.
But we do work together. So if you send me an email with your information, I don't know that I can do anything if you paid it, but I'll see if we can.
Okay. Can you put your email back on the screen? I got F. Petise, but I didn't get the rest of it.
Did it go away? It's fpetise@stanfordct.gov.
It's in the chat.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good, thanks. Alan Crimp.
I think you're muted.
Okay, sorry, unmuted myself. Good morning. I was just asking about the parking at the train station. I'm not sure if you have oversight of that, but the charter headquarters will be opening. They will be taking off the market, most likely, some of the spaces that were available there when train ridership resumes.
Yeah.
So the question gets to be, do you have any visibility on the state's project to build a new parking structure there to give us the capacity that is needed to facilitate transportation into New York City?
Yes, so I actually just met with the state last Friday. So they have included us in the process. They haven't really listened to anything we've said as far as our recommendations of what we thought the traffic impacts would be. But as far as the project goes, you'll see action out there possibly as early as July, and I believe it's scheduled to go for about 2 years. So by 2024, it should be built. It's a design build job, so they have a contractor and a consultant working together as they're going to design it along the way. So that is
Interesting
underway.
feedback. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jerry Kranz.
Yeah, I have another quick one. You had mentioned the hawk signals.
Yes.
What does the blinking red light mean? What are you supposed to do when the light turns from red solid to blinking red?
Right. So there's a little sign on the mast arm, but I'm guessing you can't see that when you're driving in a car.
No, we
But
can't see it.
it's just treated like any other red blinking light. So if you've ever come to an intersection that has the red blinking light, it's a stop and proceed with caution. So when it's a solid red, it's just like a traffic signal. You have to stop. But when it goes to the flashing red, as long as the person's cleared the crosswalk, you can then proceed.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Al Alaperti.
Yeah, Frank, nice presentation. Question, this may have been fixed, but I go downtown a lot and try to park at a meter spot. There's meters on Summer Street, Bedford Street, all over the place, right? And one day I park in a meter. I thought the meters, the sign said parking 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then a policeman happened to be there and said, don't listen to those signs. They're never up to date. You gotta put money in till 8 p.m. So then I started looking around, and there is a lack of instruction on the meters downtown. Some are 1 hour, some are 2 hours. I'm not sure if they're 8 p.m. or 7 p.m. or if they change every hour. But are you responsible for those signs? Are they up to date now? Oh, and the other thing is, half the meters downtown, when the sun is in a certain location, you cannot read the screen. And either the screen is old and damaged because of the plastic has corroded,
Yeah.
or the glare is terrible. So you don't know, you're putting money in or you're putting your credit card in, you can't see the instructions. So I like those other meters, the one you showed, the
multi-space.
Yeah, that's great. When you use those, it's simple.
So we put the multi-space on Tresser Boulevard in front of Irby, and then we put them on Lower Washington. We'll be putting them on Chapin near the park where the new parking is too. We kind of did those other locations to pilot them. So, we like those as well. But to answer your questions, yes, I'm responsible for the signs. No, they're not all up to date. The parking regulations are really set by the Board of Reps, but, we work with them closely. We just raised the rates and stuff, I think 2 years ago now. And when we did that, we increased the hours of operation. So it's 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and all the signs didn't get updated. Another one was brought to my attention over by Latham Park where there was still a 7 p.m. sign.
That's where I was, Latham Park. That's exactly where I was.
That's probably why. So thank you for bringing it to our attention. So we'll be changing those signs. Additionally, I think we lacked a lot of signage downtown where the meter parking was. Even the old meters had the little thing in them that said what the times were on it. So we have been going, I think we just upgraded a bunch of the signs on Bedford Street. We've been going what's the term I'm looking for? Strategically through downtown to try to update the signage. So there are issues there, and we are going through it. And then as far as the domes themselves, I actually contacted the company about it because we have so many where the coating is like, it's like flakes off. And when our meter guys are taking them apart and trying to clean them, it makes it worse. So apparently there was an issue with the Lexan plexiglass shipment for a big batch of the ones we got when we put them in. So we should be getting those free of charge replaced. So we're aware of that issue too. We're going throughout and replacing them.
Thank you.
Damn Lexan, Al.
I know, Alexa, yeah.
Rich Agostine.
Yeah, thank you. So I had to step away for a little bit. So if this question is redundant, please feel free to skip it. Two questions, actually. One, is the city doing any more work to consider park traffic circles use more aggressively, perhaps, than we have so far? I know there are a couple places where they seem to work really well. The other one goes back to your West Main Street and West Avenue. Can you just give a little background as to why that took like 3 to 4 years from the time that they seem to have started that project to when it actually got done? And then why also, was there any consideration given to taking away that hump as you go down West Street and you kind of go down and then up over the West Main and then back down, and whether that was ever thought to kind of smooth that out?
Yes. So I guess we'll start with the traffic circle, the roundabout question. So we have the one on Greenwich and Pulaski, which has been in the works for, as far as I understand, like 20 years now. I'm inching towards getting an agreement done. There's a land swap that has to happen with ONG. That's kind of like the final piece. And DOT won't authorize the funding because it's a LOTSIP project as well, where the state pays 100% of the construction. And the last piece is they want to see that agreement in place before they commit and give us the actual funds to build it. So I was just talking to them yesterday. So I hope to wrap that up and get that under construction. That's really like the biggest next roundabout project we have. I can also tell you that we put in a grant, another LOTSIP grant for Chapin, Harbor, and McGee, that intersection there. We put in a grant application for a roundabout there as well. And we recently, it was, I think in April, it was supported at the region. So that applications at DOT now are for review before they'll fund it. So that's the next one on the radar. And overall, I can tell you, yes, we're looking at other roundabouts. You know, as we have issues with intersections, we do look at them because it does move traffic, you know, much more efficiently than a traffic signal in most cases. So, and then as far as West Avenue and West Main Street goes, you notice that took a long time, huh? So there was a few issues that happened there. You know, it always happens in construction projects. There's a lot of unforeseens, and one of the two biggest delays there were we hit a lot of ledge when we were doing the foundations for the new signal mast arms. So, I mean, at one point, I think they were only like getting through an inch of rock a day, and the thing has to go down like 12 feet. So that was one big delay we hit. The next one was we found some controlled material. Apparently, there used to be a gas station where the apartments were there. So we found a little dirty material there that delayed us a while to get it. It wasn't a lot. It wasn't the biggest deal, but anytime you hit an environmental issue like that, you have to stop everything. You have to test the material. Then you have to submit a plan to how you're going to dispose it, you know, to DEP, and then they approve it. So that whole process took about another 6 to 8 weeks just to get it approved for the small amount of material it was. And then lastly, what happened was Route 1's a state road. We were trying to get it paved last November. And because Route 1's a state road, DOT controls the permit on the state road. And, you know, we got to a point in November and they said, well, there was two issues. They wouldn't let us, it had to be milled and paved consecutively. They wouldn't let it sit unmilled for like a day. And we were just running through issues with the weather. And then finally they just said, we're not going to let you do it this year. So we had to wait until May to get it paved. And because it was night work, so technically winter shutdowns from December 1st through March 30th of the next year is a standard winter shutdown on a project. It's also when the asphalt plants are typically shut. But once we started up again in April 1st, it's also had to be done at night because the volume on Route 1, and to pave at night, you need at least 40 degrees and rising on the roadway pavement to do it. So, you know, that's why we didn't even really attempt to get out there until May. So that was some of the delays we hit there. As far as that hump coming down the hill, you know, we did our best to make it a little better. The issue with completely eliminating that is we would have had to go so far back on West Ave to, you know, smooth it out anymore. And then you start getting all the driveways. So it just kind of snowballs trying to fix that any more than we did.
Well, that was complicated. I think might be the last question. Jerry Kranz is coming up for number 3.
I'm sorry about having 3 questions.
It's okay.
And I don't know if this is part of your area that you cover, but I'm talking about sound control. There are a number of cars that have added to their fake exhaust these terribly, terribly loud exhaust sounds, and they come rolling through the park, sitting on Bedford Street every once in a while, having dinner outside. They come down and boy, they love to make it as loud as possible.
Yeah.
Is that something that's under your control? I'm assume you're aware of it.
So it's technically, yes, I am. Technically noise violations like that fall under a health or environmental issue. So on a city level, it's really the Department of Health that deals with it. And on a state level, it's DEP or DEEP. So it's not under me. I think one of the issues you're probably going to run into there is, you know, having someone there when it actually happens is, you know, the chances are difficult to enforce. But
It's happening all over the place, but that's okay. Thank you, Frank.
Stu, I had my little signal up there.
Okay, go ahead.
Question I have, Frank, of all the 508 lights that you have and of all the great sequencing that you have on High Ridge Road, there's one light that is on Lakeview and High Ridge, which is right by Ripawong.
yes,
That light is no matter what time of day or night, totally out of sync. If you come in at 40 to 43 miles an hour on High Ridge Road from Bull's Head, normally you could make it all the way up to the Parkway, except for maybe one light around Vine Road area. But that light there, just at any time of the day or night, decides on its own that it's going to be totally out of sequencing.
So this is another one that we don't have video detection at, and it's an issue. And DOT is paving High Ridge Road this year. When they do that, they're going to cut all the loops out. So, we complained to them about it because, to replace loops at an intersection like this is probably about $10,000 to $15,000. Whereas one of the setups for the camera is about $20,000. So, they don't want to spend any more money. But, we did petition to them, and they're actually giving us the video detection for this and 5 other intersections on High Ridge Road. So first of all, I'll look at the timing anyway, but this will be one that'll get upgraded. So hopefully once we have that camera there, it'll allow us to tweak the timing a little better.
Yeah, I mean, it's like no traffic coming at it at Lakeview, and certainly it's, Ripawam is an entrance.
That sounds like a detection issue to me. Usually when you have something like that, the detection's not working. So it's not picking up that, you're getting a backup on one leg and nothing on the other. So that'll help.
It's annoying more than anything else.
I'm sure.
Thanks, Frank.
You're welcome.
I'm going to throw in one here for myself. It seems like most or all the traffic signals in Stamford end up connected to a computer somewhere. Is that correct?
Yes.
Can you say something about the computer system and what you can and cannot do remotely to affect the traffic?
So there was a project a few years ago. We got $5 million from the state to run fiber optic cables to all of our signals throughout the city. So that project is completed, and that was like the first step to optimizing our signals and adjusting all the timings, because once we had the fiber run to all the signals, it allows us to get all the data and, tweak the timing. So actually right down the hall here for me, we have a signal operations center. There's servers in there and everything. It's a whole big room with its own AC. We have, probably 6 big flat screens. We can pull all the traffic cameras up we have on. So yes, the timing can be made here. We can make adjustments from here.
Good. That's it. Thank you. It was interesting. Looks like, do we have 2 more? Al Alaperti?
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Stu. My second one. Frank, I know you're not responsible for the Stamford Center garage, but you frightened me when you said they were going to start in July. Knowing how things work, I'm an engineer myself, that garage was likely planned 2 years ago before the pandemic. Since the pandemic, no one's commuting anymore. More people are working from home. I go to the city once a month. There's never a problem parking in the existing garage. And if there was a problem, if commuters came back, on Tressa Boulevard, there's about 8 buildings with parking garages that are half empty. Couldn't we stop that overpriced garage, which I think Joe McGee told us was $100,000 a space? And if commuters ever come back, why couldn't we use the existing private parking and just work a deal with them instead of building? We have too many parking garages that are unused. Even the 3 you have, you walk around those 3 buildings, they're half empty. We don't need more parking garages. We need more people garages.
I agree with you. And there's a few issues there. One is, for private garages, the person who owns it ultimately has the say on, whether they'll let you make an agreement for them.
Understood, but he should be.
In my opinion, I think they are building that new garage much bigger than it needs to be. That's something, even before me, Jim Travers, and I know the administration here has brought up to the state, and, they didn't really listen, I guess is the way to.
In that little sliver of land next to the highway, right?
Yes, and it actually goes over South State Street.
Oh, okay.
I think it's about 900 spaces they're putting there.
But it was planned before the pandemic. Is that correct?
That is correct. It's been planned for some time. So the other thing we're doing is we are doing a citywide parking study. So, we have a great relationship with the Land Use Bureau here under Ralph Blessing. We work closely with them. So they had funds for a citywide parking study. They've included us in the process. That's ongoing. So that's something we're looking at is, and the citywide parking study does look at the private garages as well. So try to, give us a better idea on what's going on and, what we need to adjust.
That's
So it
great.
is something that's on our radar. Yep.
But one of the problems you have is the Stamford parking mentality, commuting mentality, is that you have to park your car as close to the train as possible. But when you get off the train at Grand Central Station, you don't think anything of walking from 42nd Street down to 30th Street.
Right. And, I do think some of, honestly, I think some of that is, even our shuttle center before the pandemic, that's the busiest shuttle operation per square foot in the entire country. There's over 400 shuttle trips in and out of the transportation center there. And, a lot of those aren't even going, they're all going like within a mile of the transportation center. And some of it is, I don't think we really have a lot of the pedestrian infrastructure. I mean, no one wants to walk down North State Street. You're on a narrow sidewalk with 3 lanes of traffic flying by you. So that's something we've been working on too. I just submitted a grant for that as well. I think until you solve, that's another reason we try to look at pedestrians and bikes, because until we get more people using other modes of transportation, we're not going to solve the traffic issues here either.
And last, Rich Agustin.
Yeah, thanks. One thing that's really annoying is driving around at 10, 11 o'clock at night and having to stop at a light and sit there for, a minute or two while there's no other car within sight. It seemed to me that there were more places a couple of years ago where lights turned to flashing late at night so that you could just stop and go. I don't see that as much anymore, and I'm wondering, was it changed? And or other than downtown, couldn't that be almost everywhere in Stamford late at night?
I mean, it's really a case by case basis. We have to look at the volume of traffic going through there. And, as we are able to roll out more advanced detection with cameras and that sort of thing, the need for that kind of goes away because the cameras can adjust and, we can adjust the timings that way as well. So it's something we're making ongoing upgrades with our signal system.
Okay, I think that's it for questions. Frank, thank you so much for a very well done presentation. And I thought your answers to the questions were terrific. We really appreciate you being quite honest about what's going on and how you feel about things. So I think we all appreciate that. So again, from the Men's Club, Senior Men's Association of Stamford, thanks again for being with us. And maybe in a year or so, 2 years, we'll catch you again and you can tell us how you fixed all these things.
Thank you. I really appreciate you having me. You have a great group here. It was my pleasure.
Okay, thank you very much. Joe, it's all yours.
Hi, thank you, Stu. Again, Frank, thank you for being with us with a very informative presentation, and thank you for everything that you do. I know that you're running ragged sometimes, following up on all of the issues and handling them remarkably.
Thank you.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
So, guys, thank you for being with us today. Remember, we got 2 more meetings till the end of our regular meeting session. Hope to see you both weeks. Stay well, stay healthy, and be careful. And we'll see you next Thursday. Thank you.